What's up, everybody? We are back with the Producers Hangout.
Welcome to the Producers Hangout.
So this is episode 34 of the Producers Hangout. We haven't had a show for almost 2 months now, and apologize for that. We've had a lot going on, but we wanted to get back in action and get another show going on. So I'm Flux of fluxwithit.com and themachinewarehouse.com. And today we've also got Mike of Padbangers with us. Say what's up, Mike.
What's up, guys? Glad to be here again.
And we've got special guest in here today, St. Joe of soundsandgear.com and a host of other .coms. Why don't you introduce yourself a little bit? Tell people who exactly are you and what all the websites are that you're dealing with.
Man, I'm just St. Joe, like you said, just an audio nerd fanatic that runs a lot of websites trying to share information and show people how to use stuff. Of course, soundsandgear.com is the main brand where a lot of people probably know me from. Then I got a lot of spin-offs of that. I got machine tutorials, Boom and Bap, where I just review drums, machine packs, where I go through different stuff for machine, and then the newest one is pushtutorials.com. So busy, man, just, educator, did stuff with lynda.com, creative live, all types of stuff. So
I'm lucky enough to, I've known you for a long time, and we've been involved in different projects and whatnot, but one thing I wanted to impress upon people before we go too deep into the other subjects is that Joe has been a long-running member of the community who's been out there just helping people in a lot of free areas as well. So it's not just just the products-based stuff, but also, YouTube reviews, Facebook groups. We've got the Machine Movement Facebook group as well, Push Movement, right? Yeah. And just really trying to help people out, get people to a position to where they can make the music that they're always wanting to make. And
actually, before you continue,
sure,
we have to say there wouldn't be a Producers Hangout without Joe, because that's where we met the first time. It was a Machine Tutorials forums, where also I think Calf West was there too. It was you and a few of the other guys where we first, before we met on Facebook again, that was the community where you had to be at this time.
Yeah, absolutely. So, it's Joe's kind of like a linchpin to a lot of us. So it's pretty funny that basically everybody runs through Joe. So everybody, Joe is the Kevin Bacon of. It's 6 degrees of St. Joe.
Well, I don't know about all that, but I don't know, man. I just love this stuff and love helping people, so I just try to share as much information as I can.
Yeah, absolutely. So, first topic of discussion is going to be what's beside Mike and myself, and Joe's got one over there too, and that's going to be the latest controller, Push. This is the big update from Ableton, and I just want to get some. Let's start off with just talking about the general thoughts on 9.5. So, Joe, you started a whole website based around tutorials for this. So I'm going to have you touch on it first, as far as what are some of the aspects of 9.5 that are really like impressing you and have you excited about them?
Well, me, mainly for me, man, it's audio and dealing with audio, and that's always the thing that I'm chasing. Like, anything that lets me deal with audio better is good for me. So the whole simpler thing and the way that you can manipulate your audio is cool. But that's it. It didn't change too much for me from previous versions and Push 1 and stuff, but just I'm always wanting to see more audio tools. So for me, that was a real big thing. Is just the audio, the whole sampling and manipulation of the audio directly on the controller. So.
Yeah, I think one of the things that surprised me when this all kind of came out was the fact that for a long time, like, a lot of us have been looking for a solution where we could slice our samples and control our samples with hands-on control in an environment where we had the depth to do things like MIDI effects, and automation control, and just lots of like a much deeper all-encompassing world where I can throw vocals on there, and I can chop up vinyl samples, and I can do my drums, all of that stuff. And when I saw what they were doing with 9.5, I've never been that big of an Ableton guy, just for the fact of like I never really liked how the GUI looked to me. It just didn't jump out to me as something that I wanted to use. But I was always aware of the power behind Ableton, and the fact that Ableton's always, like, it's the main key factor of Ableton's always been the real-time time stretching and just the flexibility in working with audio. So when I started seeing them come out with the first push, I got excited because then it takes away a lot of the headache of having to make your own template and map it out in a very deep way. They already did that, but I was disappointed that I wasn't able to properly handle samples the way that I wanted to from hardware, because I'm kind of a hardware guy. I like working with samples from hardware, and with this one, I mean, you can see right here, like I can sit here and adjust my samples right on the controller and chop everything up, and the changes to Simpler really aid in that.
Yeah. I mean, I've been an Ableton guy for a long time, so I was already using Push One, and like I said, for me, it's just about being able to capture my audio. So any improvements in that area are always welcome. Like I'm always pushing companies to really improve, how you handle audio and make it easy to manipulate. So I was definitely happy to see that on the new push for sure.
Yeah. So Mike, you've been using Ableton for a while as well. What are some of the changes that you've been excited about and enjoying?
Yeah, so I've used Ableton now for a few months only. I started with, I think it was 9.1, and I had the same problems in the beginning like you, like the GUI was kind of ugly, but once you get beyond that and you see how creative you can work with it. For me, it's not only DAW, it's like an instrument, really. You can be so creative with it. But I didn't have Push 1, so when I got Push 2, it really impressed me at first because when they sent it out to me, there were no manuals and stuff like that. You just got the unit and you plug it up, but you just looked at it, and I think I did the first beat within 5 minutes with it without touching the mouse, because everything was so clear structured, and everything was just as I expected it to be. So that was what really impressed me. And then with the 9.5, of course, the simpler functions are great. Also, I love the new filters for analog, and they sound really good. And yeah, so the overall experience for me now with Push, it feels so comfortable, and a lot of stuff is working that I missed with the workflow with, for example, Machine. So yeah, for me it's just a really nice combination at the moment, and I use it every day, and I really like it.
Yeah, another aspect about it that I'm noticing that I'm using a lot is the fact that now I watched a tutorial video that Joe had posted actually, and it just showed how easy you can convert everything in here now. So that just makes it so fast to move between different styles that you're working with. So I've really been enjoying that, and the sensitivity of the pads on this thing are fantastic.
Yes.
So you can really kind of get into it and finger drum on it. I'm used to a bit thicker pads, like Machine and MPC and whatnot. But I wouldn't say that they're completely unusable as far as finger drumming. You just have to get used to that size. I do tend to like to have two fingers on one pad when I'm double kicking and things like that.
Right.
But the other thing that I found out that I really liked, and this gets back to, like, this stuff is kind of old hat to a lot of Ableton users, but when you're finger drumming on Push, you could also be doing your step sequencing at the same time, and you can see where your steps are being input, and you can kind of have control over your scenes while you're doing it. the depth that you can get into while you're playing live is really fantastic. So I've been enjoying that a lot. I came from I remember I used to have the MoFat one, the MP7.
7, yeah.
Yeah. So that used to have like a 16-track sequencer on it with buttons, and you could be playing and then triggering off sequences as you were playing on that thing. And I always kind of missed that when I was using the MPC and the machine. And you could really kind of do that again now
Right.
with this. So that's a pretty cool feature right there.
Yeah.
And it also works excellent with external hardware. So when you're using the step sequencer with an external synthesizer, it's so much fun using it.
Now, how do you guys like the actual build quality of the units?
I always felt the push unit was well built, even the first one. So I didn't expect anything less. You know, I mean, it's cool. It's cool that Ableton manufactured and designed this one totally on their own, but the build quality is still dope. I mean, it's heavy. You know, it's a nice, heavy, solid piece of gear. Knobs feel good. Everything on it feels like quality to me. So compared to, I mean, I have a lot of different things around, so the quality is good in my opinion.
Yeah, it actually surprised me when I saw that they weren't using a Kai on it. Like when I got it and I picked it up and I'm looking at it and I'm like, there's no other logos on here. No third-party company manufactured it. It's, it's all them. So that actually surprised me. And then some of the other changes on here is the buttons. Like all the buttons have this like, they're almost like completely flat. And it has like this like rubber coating over them, and they feel really cool.
Yeah, it's gonna click. The only thing I don't like is the tap tempo.
I was just about to say that's the only drawback. The tap tempo.
I use tap tempo exclusively, so I don't like how flat the tap tempo. It's more like a press tempo button.
Yeah, it's like a press and click.
Yeah, like you can't really tap it. So I'm hoping that they like implement something where you can like tap the tempo knob itself. Since they're touch knobs.
Because they're all capacitive touch knobs.
Right. So I mean, I'd be happy if they did something where you could just tap that. I'd be fine because that tap tempo button, man. Yeah. No.
That is the one thing that I haven't really been too fond of. I really like the touch strip on the side here. It's very sensitive, and you can really kind of, when you're doing modulations, you can bounce around and all. Because it's such a long strip, you can get really detailed with it too, which is cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I've been really, I've been pretty happy with it, and I know that some people had asked me about, the RGB pads on here. Not, I guess there was a run of like the original push that maybe had some weird color or something. The color on these ones.
Oh yeah, like I got it. It's over there, but like the white would sometimes look purple or pinkish, and no, the LEDs are much more solid, brighter, bolder colors on this one compared to the other one, man.
So can you tell us a little bit about what you're doing over at the Push Tutorial site and what kind of content you have going over there? Like,
yeah, I mean, it started before this came out actually, because like I said, I've been using Ableton for a while, and once I got pushed maybe a year or so ago, it became more integrated in my workflow, and I noticed that a lot of people I was talking to, especially when you get into like the urban and even some of like the electronic producers, like they would look at Push and they'd be like, they really didn't understand what was going on with all the pads and different things like that. So I'm like, man, there has to be some type of resource to show people how powerful this is, but also to break it down and make it really simple to understand. And so, you know me, man, like if I got an idea, I'm gonna go to work, and I mean, it's something I've been working on for a while and just finally got finished. And of course, once I actually put it out, they come out with the new one. So, but it is what it is, keeps me going. But I mean, it's just I set it up in a way where somebody, they want to quickly learn what Push can do, they can go there. I got it set up where there's like a video manual, so you can go through, find different topics. It's exactly what you want to find. And of course, if people want other type of help or specific questions, tutorials, stuff like that, then they can get that as well. And of course, I do downloads and exclusive interviews and all type of stuff. I mean, just trying to make a dope resource, man, for people who want that type of help. So.
So, Machine Tutorials is another site that you've done, and you've been doing that for a while. But about how long has that been going on?
Since 2011.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
and that site, I mean, it's really a lot of content.
Yeah. Yeah.
Do you know about roughly how many videos are on there now?
Bro, man, like well over 500 over there now. So I mean, that's
That's a lot
three,
of content.
four, yeah. I mean, that's a lot of years, man. So, and it's that's more of a just something cool. Here's an idea, share it. People come say, how do you do this? Make a video for it. So it's not so much as a course. It's just a big like library full of all types of stuff related to machine and integrating it with stuff like that. Whereas, the push site is a little bit more structured with the manual that you can really quickly go through, but also have the stuff where people can come in and just ask specifically like, hey, how do I do this? How do I do that? And then there'll be videos for that. So.
So on the other site, you also had a lot of other content as far as the sample packs and the forum where people can chat and discuss different things and kind of bring other
Yeah.
topics to light.
Yeah, we got that on the push site as well. I mean, we got a private social network, private forum, that, like I said, exclusive downloads from different people that are making stuff in Ableton format, or even if it's not Ableton format, I'll take it and kind of turn it into a drum rack or something like that. So, I mean, there's definitely, extra stuff like that there too. And like I said, exclusive interviews and stuff like with people like Ski Beats and different producers and stuff. So just trying to make it like I said, a dope resource, man, for people that are looking for something like that. And then, of course, now since Push 2 is out, we have to have content for that as well. So.
Yeah, and I'm kind of scrolling through so that people can kind of see what the site's looking like, and when you go onto the site, the first thing you notice is that it's definitely very cleanly laid out. Um,
Yeah.
the push forum and the fact that you have this video request service, I mean, that's going to be something that you're going to be adding to constantly, right? About
Right.
how often are you looking to add videos and kind of continue on?
I'm updating them monthly as it is right now, but of course when new stuff comes out, it's a lot. It just depends on what people need help with, really. I mean, there's not a month that goes by that I don't update at least something in there. Like I said, with a download, or interview, some type of tutorial. But I mean, it really just depends on what people are asking. Like if people have a lot of questions, then it's more. But
Yeah, absolutely.
yeah,
So let's talk a little bit about some other things that are going on right now. There's been a couple of things that have released recently that I don't know how much press they're getting outside of our little group, but I just downloaded Falcon from UVI,
yeah,
and I've been really impressed with it as far as just the depth on that thing. It's very much it's kind of like Contact and Omnisphere and Alchemy like all had a baby, and it was
right,
way smarter, you know.
yeah, yeah.
So I'm going to toss it to Mike first because I know that he's been messing with it as well. What are your thoughts on Falcon?
Oh, it sounds so amazing. I was really, really impressed. I downloaded and I sent an email to UVI and told him to give some hugs to their developers because I was so happy with it. It's I was looking for an 80s analog synth for these typical brass and horn sounds, but there's no need for it anymore. You can do it in Falcon and they sound so authentic. It's really amazing. I'm really impressed from it. I only listened through the presets, so I didn't made any patches yet. But yeah, I'm really digging it.
I haven't had a chance to really make too much in it. I made just a couple of things because usually that's like the first thing I'll do when I'm messing with something is I start to make something new in it just to see what it's like. And whoa, is it deep? That was like my initial impression was just like, oh man, like it's like you start diving in a little bit and then it just goes deeper and deeper and deeper. So the sheer number of oscillator options and effects that you can get in this thing are just ridiculous. Now,
I think there are more than 80 effects built into it.
Yeah, and my understanding, and I'm going to kind of toss it to Joe, we were talking a little bit before the show about this. So UVI is who originally made Mach 5 3, which is one of my favorites. I'm a huge fan of Mach 5. It is fantastic, and I think it's also probably like one of the most slept on pieces of gear that you can for your computer, because the sound quality in it is fantastic, and the ability that you have to sound design and work with on it is fantastic. Now, from my understanding, this is like their next generation. This is almost like kind of continuing the Mach 5, but it's not Mach 5 anymore. Now it's Falcon. But do you have any thoughts on that, or what do you know?
I mean, I know they did some development with Motu and everything, but obviously they've always had the UVI workstation. So I look at this more as a pro version of the UVI workstation, because it's the same type of concept. You know, that was always the underlying concept with some of the like the BPM and the Mach 5 and stuff like that. But I mean, I've been a fan of UVI forever. Like ever since I can remember, man. At least since like 2009, I've been a huge fan of UVI. I just always loved their sound. So it's cool to see them just keep progressing and actually having their own really pro level platform. So I mean, I'm definitely excited to see what else they do with this platform, because the stuff that they put in there, like you said, all the different oscillators. And one thing I noticed about their stuff is it's just really easy to build stuff in it. Like, you know, as opposed to something like Contact, for me, I'm not a sound designer like you guys, so I don't like getting into Contact and doing all types of crazy stuff. Whereas with the UVI stuff, it's really easy to drop samples in, spread them apart, you know, or pull up an oscillator and build something really, really quick. So I like how their stuff sounds good, but they make it really, really easy to use, even though it's powerful and deep. Like, you can go as deep as you want, but you know, you're not sitting here scratching your head trying to figure out how to do stuff, and that's what I dig about it. But I mean, it's cool. It's just cool to see them doing their own thing, man.
Yeah, that's what I really like too. You can still keep it simple if you don't want to dig deep and you just want to use the presets. You can still load all the sound bites into the UVI workstation, where you have like kind of like Complete, where you have a slimmed down interface with just the most important controls of it, and you can still tweak the sound, but in a very easy way without going through all the pages and all the deep modulation that is going on.
Yeah, one of the things that I noticed about this is also that, continuing with what was going on with the UVI workstation and Mach 5 and all that, is that you can use the Lua programming language inside of it, and you can do like event editing and just all sorts of advanced things that you know, this goes far, far beyond just the average preset user. Now, the sound design that's already in there, the presets that are already in there are fantastic. Like, I was scrolling through, just kind of checking them out, and like the bell, just the bells section on it was really impressive.
Right.
And, but there's so much more you can do there. All the different filter types, and just, oh man, it's really impressive.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I've been a fan of UVI. Anybody that's been following me for any amount of time, they know I'm a huge fan of UVI. Anytime I get a chance to try to put somebody on what they're doing, I do it, just because, you know, at the end of the day, for me, it's all about the sound, and they've always had a really nice, just a warm, organic sound to everything that they do. And so, like I said, it's cool to see them have their own pro level instrument like this, man. I mean, you know, the UVI workstation is still cool, still very capable, but Falcon is just next level.
Well,
they used to have they have a lot of synthesizers in their previous packs, but they were all sampled, and now they start building their own oscillators and all that stuff. So really nice progress they made here.
Right.
Yeah, and the workstation was always, at least to my knowledge, the workstation was always just sample based, right? And then it was Mach 5 if you wanted the oscillators and all that stuff.
Right.
Price of Mach 5 was fairly hefty. Now, you look at the price of Falcon, which is on sale right now. I think it's $229 on sale, and I think it's like something like $339 when it's not on sale, something like that. but it's a significant price drop, really. So people, in my opinion, like they need to not sleep on this. This is
Right.
You do need an iLock, so there is that. I don't know if it uses eLicenser or not, but I know that it definitely has iLock support.
Yeah, I think their stuff is all iLock, man. But hopefully, what I'm hoping is we see more developers. And that's why I always talk to guys like you and other developers I know, like, we want to see more developers on the UVI platform also, man. Like,
Yeah. I mean, and it's like you said, their engine, the sound quality in their engine does have a certain character to it that's really meaty, and it's just it's really great sound. Like what was the drum when they had BPM?
mhm.
BPM always had a really great sound to it, and that was their design too. Unfortunately, it didn't really go much further, but
Right.
that was a shame actually because it had a lot of really cool things going on. But
Yeah, I mean, but if you listen to anything that they do, man, any of their products always have this nice, warm, just really organic sound. And like any sound designer that I put onto the UVI platform, they're like, dude, they fall in love with it because for one, it's really really flexible in the stuff that you can do. But again, it all comes down to the sound, and a lot of people that develop on it really end up loving the sound. So, I'm hoping to just see more people kind of gravitate towards that as a platform to develop libraries for.
yeah, the other thing that I'm noticing is like the actual layout of everything is like very clean. It's easy to tell what you're doing and what you're getting into. I messed with again, like I said, the first thing that I tend to do is start to build a patch from scratch.
Right.
And first thing I did was when I set up some oscillators and just general simple stuff, and I started to throw some effects onto it. I wanted to throw like a chorus and a couple other things on there, and they have like this drag and drop thing now that's really cool, and it has like cabling, and you can kind of see how things are attached. There's some really neat things that you can do with it. So on the surface, like for instance, I'm going to stop right here, and we're on the interface thing. And if you just look at this from a layman's perspective, you might be like, wow, that's really confusing. But when you actually get into it, you'll notice that like the left-hand side is a tree browser for your parts. The right-hand side is like sound banks, oscillator. It's a browser for elements that you can put into the synth. And then the center section is really pretty straightforward, and it's all the aspects that you're going to be building inside of there. As far as your modulation and your oscillators and all that good stuff. So it's really not nearly as intimidating as it looks if you aren't really paying attention,
Right. I mean, it's logical. It's laid out in a logical way, for sure.
And you also can load up all your previous UVI stuff into it and use it with the new effects and new filters and stuff, so that's also really cool.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. So you can actually layer the deep synthesis that this has in it. You can layer it with something like a very complex, electric piano or something that they have that already works in there. So you can get like these crazy layered sounds, and it has this nice browser, so you can see the browser on here now.
Yeah,
And
I'm a huge fan of what something looks like, man. Like, if it doesn't look good, I'm not gonna use it. So I definitely appreciate the attention to detail and making it look inviting in terms of just browsing and finding your stuff, like.
Yeah, I'll say like it's one of those things that like it kind of when I saw that it was out there, I was actually surprised. Like I didn't really expect it. And then as I started looking into it, I was like, oh well, this is like Mach 5 taken to the next level. To the point where like at first like I didn't understand what exactly was going on, and I tried to throw it into Mach 5. And then I was like, wait, this is like the new version of that. This is like that taken, because if you're familiar with Mach 5, there's all these oscillators and everything in it, and you could do many of the similar things, but there's much more in Falcon, and it just kind of blew my mind. So I felt it definitely necessary to talk about that. One other thing that I wanted to talk about is I wanted to get you guys' opinion on the new Novation product, the circuit. I don't know if you guys seen this, but Novation has a new controller that is designed to basically be like a scratch pad that you can get everything up and running, and then just work with it, and it costs about the same or less than most MIDI controllers.
But it's not a controller though, is it? Right? It's like a drum machine in a synth. Like it's got a
It
V8.
can also be a controller.
Does it got like two of the Nova engines in it or something like
Yeah,
that?
it's got so it's basically like a slimmed down Ultra Nova type engine, but primarily for drum synthesis, from what I understand. And you can also, it has melodic synth engines in it as well.
Right.
And you can also use it as a MIDI controller.
Okay.
And so you can launch clips and stuff from it as well.
Yeah.
And it's its own self-contained package.
Right.
You know. So I thought it was pretty interesting that you're starting to see like
I have to mess with it, man. Like you know, when I initially seen it, it wasn't something that really sparked my interest. But I mean, I've talked to a few different people, man, who said they love that thing. Like, I was talking to some people at Loop, man, and they were just talking about how fun it was because like you said, it's self-contained. And
Yeah.
You just get to work. So I mean, I wouldn't mind trying. I'm down to try everything.
I'm
man.
big on mobile stuff too. Like I'm big
Yeah.
on being able to just take a piece of gear and go sit on the couch or go outside for a little bit and just kind of tinker around like that.
Is
And
battery operated?
yeah. So you can battery operate it, and you can kind of take it on the go with you and just do whatever you want to do. And that's one of the things that excited me about it is that, you know, here's a piece of kit that you can start to build something, and then, you know, and it's hardware. You know, it's not.
Right.
You know, like I love using the iPad, but at the same time, I also hate using the iPad at the same time because while it's better than clicking a mouse, at the same time, it's still not a tactile surface.
Right. No. Yeah. Definitely. I agree.
So for me, it's like little things like that. Like I have Volca Beats and stuff like that.
Right.
To me, it occupies a similar territory as like the Volca Beats, but a little bit better because you can integrate it much deeper into, like, when you get back into the studio, it's much easier to dump those projects into something like Ableton Live. Like I believe it has like actual exporting.
It has export for the parts.
Yeah.
I was gonna ask, is it like the Korg, the Electribe sampler does that? Like it exports Ableton projects.
I'm pretty positive.
Has me want to check. You know, that's a reason that I want to check that out because it's like that's portable. You know, that's mobile. That's battery operated. That's something that I can take with me on the plane or whatever. And then, you know, when I get back, I can just dump the whole project into Ableton. So, I mean, if the circuit lets you dump the projects out, I don't know if it does, but I'm gonna have to check it out and see. Because if it does, then it may be something I want to check out.
Yeah. So Mike, have you looked at this at all?
Yes, I think it's interesting, but I think I really have to play with it and see
Right.
how it works out for me because I think I won't be too happy with the limitation it has. Like you only have like 8 macro knobs per patch, and you really can change what these are controlling. So it's really like playing with presets, but maybe it's more fun than I'd expect. So yeah, I just have to try it for myself. I saw the videos. I think it sounds really cool. But again, I like synthesizers where I can dig deep into it and do all the modulations I want and not stick to a preset sound.
Right. Right.
Yeah, and basically what I'm understanding also is that the knobs at the top that we're looking at here are like macros. And
Yes.
so you can assign them, and they can be assigned, and just.
No. You can't assign them. They are pre-assigned per patch.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, per patch.
So as far as I know, you can't reassign any controls they do. So you load up, for example, a bass sound, and then you have a pre-assigned cutoff, resonance, maybe some envelopes, but you can't really decide what they're doing. This like they said in the video, it's like trial and error. So you never really know what these do, so you have to play around with them.
Oh, I'm not super big
So
fan.
there's no labels.
Yeah.
Yeah,
No
that was my initial response when I first saw it was, okay, no labels on it. That kind of worries me. So, but yeah, like when they say, oh, you don't. So they have an iPad app. What is the name of it?
Launchpad.
Yeah, something like that. They've got an iPad app that's
or the-
Launch Key or something to that effect. You know, it's one of those. It's an iPad app version of that stuff. But there's basically like a lot of it is not labeled so much. Like a lot of it is trial and error in that same kind of way. And at least as far as I was able to tell, like I didn't spend, a ton of time on it, but it had me a little bit confused as far as how the the mapping and all worked out. It's fun to work with, but I was surprised. Yeah, and so this thing has a built-in speaker as well.
Right.
So that's pretty interesting.
It got a headphone. It got headphone jack.
I'm pretty positive it does. I saw one of the Novation guys had plugged it into his car and was driving around listening to it, which
right. I want to know if it exports, man. I want to know if it has an export, because that would change. I mean, that would make it more than a novelty for me if it could export into an Ableton project.
I think it's really cool for live performances when you want to have these happy accidents and you want to just keep jamming and jamming for hours. I think it's really made for that.
Yeah.
Not too sure about using it in the studio, but as I said, I'm interested. I definitely want to check it out. And
I mean, I guess if anything, it's a little synth. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
like
2 Nova synths, 4-part drum machine, 6-note polyphonic per synth, 64 synth patches. So yeah, it sounds like very limited memory on there though, with only 64 patches. But I wonder if that's maybe because of how they're banking the pads and whatnot. Software compatibility is listed as Ableton Live 9. It's included with.
I mean, Ableton is included with pretty much any type of controller you can find, though.
That's true. That's true.
That doesn't mean that it actually. I don't see anything where it says it exports, like the Korg stuff, like the Korg Electribe and the Electribe sampler. They actually export Ableton projects, which is dope to me. You know what I'm saying? Like that would be something that I could use, to go mobile with, because then I know I don't have to fuss about trying to get it into my DAW when I get back. Like, I can just export it to a memory card, stick it in my computer, and bring it into Ableton. So stuff like that. That's the type of stuff that I like to see with hardware. Like, if it's something self-contained like that, but it can still export and open up in a DAW, or even if it was just exporting, stems of whatever I'm doing. Something that makes it easy to get it back into my DAW or my main software is. That's the type of stuff I look for.
Do you guys know how much circuit is? Is it competing with the Electribe, or is it more in the Akai drum machine section?
Was it like $199 or something like that?
I thought it was a little bit more than that. Let me check. I'll check Sweetwater right now.
It's not like 300, is it?
$329.
Okay.
So it's
because the Electribe is what?
I think it's about the same price.
About the same, right? Like that's what I'm saying. Like they're around the same, but I thought it was. I thought it was.
For my money, I might be more inclined. Yeah, the Electribes are $399. For my money, I might be probably more inclined to go Electribe.
The sampler. I'm talking about. Yeah.
And so there was recent news about how you can kind of hack the Electribe to turn the sampler into the and then the groove one into the sampler. But from what I saw, that like I didn't dig into it because I don't have one. But it didn't look super easy either. Like it didn't look terribly difficult, but it did look like you had to do a little bit of hex coding.
I don't got time. I don't have time for all that. That's for the people that like to do that, that's fine. That's something you would do. Me, I'm not doing all that. That's too much.
I'll be the first person to tell you I would do it strictly because I'm a cheapskate, and
No, you just like tearing stuff up too, man. Like you enjoy that. Like I'd send it to you and be like, yo, do this. Like I don't, but I am interested in the Korg, the Electribe sampler. Like I said, just purely for the fact that I can take whatever I make and drop it into Ableton. You know what I'm saying? Like that's to me, I like that type of integration with hardware. Like I love hardware, but at the end of the day, I'm usually gonna get it into software. So if it makes it easier for me to do that, like if I can have something that's standalone and I can export it and drag that into my software really easily, that's the type of stuff that I'm interested in. If I got to track it out and do all the different stuff, that's where I'm like,
Yeah, Richard London just sent me a message on Facebook, and he said, from Novation on Twitter, Circuit doesn't currently offer Ableton export, but the MIDI for each instrument can be extracted.
Okay, so you can extract in MIDI, but yeah, that feels like a little bit of a missed opportunity there.
Like that, for me, that's not I mean, it's like I said, I'm not saying I wouldn't check it out just to see what it's about, but for my personal use, I would lean more towards something like the Electribe, just because I can have my own
Well,
sounds in it, I can have my own samples, I can take it with me, it's battery powered, whatever I make. When I get back to the lab, I can drop it into Ableton, and it's going to be a session. It's going to have my clips, and I'm good to go. Like that's the
One
type
of
of
the
stuff.
other things that I
yeah,
noticed
but maybe it's not that bad because I think it will send out audio via the USB port. So maybe you just have to plug it into your computer, export the MIDI into Ableton, and you have all your instruments set up as they are on the hardware, and you can continue working. So
Is it
that would
multi-track?
be,
Is it multi-track audio over USB, like 4 channels or whatever that's in
I
there?
think,
Like,
I think I heard of that. Yeah.
I mean,
so
if that works, if they have the USB part kind of worked out, whereas you can get the multiple channels into your software, that may not be as bad. But again, it just depends on how they have it set up. Like if they have it
Yeah.
set up like the Electron, like the Electron overbridge stuff, that stuff works. Like that's another thing. Like I can be making something on the Electron and then bring it back into the lab, hook up the overbridge, and I can get all my tracks, stream them directly into whatever I'm using. Ableton for me, but you can stream it directly through their software. So I mean, if they do something like that, then it wouldn't be as bad. But if it's just a normal, MIDI, and then I don't know. I just like
Yeah.
integration, man. Like when
I
it comes
agree with
down
you.
to it, like I'm lazy when it comes to integration. Like that's why I don't like mapping stuff. I just like stuff to work. I come from the hardware era, so I don't like mapping. I don't like wondering what a knob does. That's why if it doesn't have labels and stuff on it, I kind of gloss over it. Like I don't want to have to think about what this knob does. I just want to know what it does. So
Yeah.
I'm all about just really really tight seamless integration at this point. Like
yeah, I think the only other thing about it that had me a little bit miffed and confused was it seems like the drum parts are all samples. They're not actually synthesis. So I don't know if it's sample-based synthesis,
hmm,
uh, but it seemed to me like it was all just straight drum samples on there. So that seems a little limited too. So for the price point on there, that kind of had me like,
right.
it's still pretty low price point, but at the same time,
Yeah, I mean I'm not gonna. I'll probably end up checking it out at some point, man. I just because I'm curious to see what it's really all about. But again, like I said, for personal use, I just kind of lean more towards something that has a setup like the Electribe stuff, where
sure.
I just love that whole idea of whatever I make when I'm on the go, I can easily just drag it into Ableton when I
Yeah,
get
absolutely,
home. Like
absolutely,
this.
and it seems like that's what they're doing now with the Electribe stuff, and I will be surprised if that doesn't become much more adopted, because so Ableton was really big for a while, and then I felt like it kind of had a lull for a little bit. Then eight I don't think people liked as much. Eight kind of
Yeah, there was a lot of issues with 8. I've been using it since like 6 or early 7. Like I've been using it for a while, so 8 was a thing where a lot of there was a lot of issues, and they just stopped development and just focused on fixing the bugs in 8. So, um,
yeah.
but
Yeah. But and then 9 came around, and I think people were excited because the audio engine started to improve again.
and
And
9 came around same. That's when they introduced push too. So
yeah, exactly, exactly. And now with 9.5, I'm seeing a lot of, and I'm gonna touch on it just because a lot of people in the groups have been kind of freaking out about it. A lot of machine users are upset, and a lot of machine users are ready to just sell off their machine because of the fact that it's felt like lip service for a while. It's felt like a lot of oh yeah, we're working on that, and then an update comes out and it's basically just a fancy browser or something, and it's like, and people get upset.
yeah, I mean
For a long time, people have been waiting for real-time time stretching in machine, faster chopping in machine with more flexibility, a deeper sequencer, linear sequencing, tempo mapping, and now all those things are available in this controller. So, like it's got a lot of people feeling a certain way, but it's
Yeah, I mean,
making a big advertising push, a groundswell back towards Ableton, which I
yeah,
could see, manufacturers seeing that again and dumping more products that are going to export into that. Because you're not going to see people exporting so much specifically into a machine format
right,
because
right.
it just wouldn't make all that much sense,
Well, I mean, Ableton is a DAW though. At the end of the day, like
Exactly, that's my point.
it's still super popular as a DAW. So I mean, and I think that's where you get that type of support. But I mean, I'm pretty sure there's Ableton guys that feel the same way. Like, man, Ableton's been saying such and such forever.
Sure.
It's probably stuff that they want that they're not getting. So I mean, it's one of those things, man. It's just development. And I look at it like Ableton is Ableton, machine is machine. There's some overlap there, and for some people, the new push is going to be exactly what they need for their workflow, and for some people, it's not. It just I'm one of those that, man, just use whatever it is that allows you to stay creative. Like it's not that serious at the end of the day. Like and we come from the era where, dude, we was paying like $2,000, $2,500 for one box. So when you compare that to the stuff that you can get your hands on now, it's like it's really not that serious. Like back then you had to really just save up and really make just like, yo, this is it. I'm not getting nothing else. And if you're in that position, then go with whichever one really just fits your workflow. Like I said, push can sample, chop, and you can do a lot of things that you can do in a DAW. Machine can sample and chop, and it has a totally different workflow. It's not a DAW. Well, I mean, but it is what it is. I use them both together personally.
Yeah, absolutely.
Like, cause I still love the browser and everything in terms of how I can get to my kits quickly in Machine. I'm not, I do think they kind of crippled it a little bit from a end user standpoint, where how we used to be able to add our own banks and different things like that. But in terms of finding what I want quickly, I still prefer Machine's browser for that. And I have all my drum kits and stuff inside of there, and I just use that usually as a plug-in inside of Ableton. But I mean, it is what it is. I understand why people are upset, for sure, because I mean, we've been using Machine for so long, man.
Yeah.
We've been waiting for so many different types of things, and I think it was people. There was so much potential. Like, people saw the potential of what Machine could be, but you also have people, Machine users, that don't want to see it go that way. You're like, no, we don't want all this other stuff. So it's like it really depends on who you talk to. You're gonna get a different issue, or you get a different list of what it should be, depending on who the person is. Where some people.
I try to remind people though that if your opinion is different than mine, then you're just wrong. So
yeah, well, of course,
Exactly.
No, I think
everybody else.
there's definitely a lot to be said for the fact that you can't please everybody all the time. That's definite. But I think that there was just a lot of the people saying, oh, this specific feature is on the way, and then it gets pushed aside for something else. And I think that soured a lot of people's ideas. But that being said, I totally agree. I mean, I still use my Machine, and I don't see me getting rid of Machine at all anytime soon. I totally am of the mindset of using them both, and I love that. And I still prefer the layout of Machine's pads. Like, I like, because I'm a finger drummer, I like that.
Right.
To me, it's like I love seeing that they work well together, because from day one, Machine's always worked well with Push, or with Ableton as a whole, with the way the clips drag and drop, and the fact that realistically, Machine's always been kind of like a slimmed down version of Ableton, in a way that the patterns and the scenes work is extremely similar to how
it is.
Ableton works. So it's there's a lot of parity there, so that when you're working on beats, like the way that I prefer to work is I keep Machine as a standalone application and Ableton as a standalone application, and then I drag between them, because I like having independent transport control of my Machine.
Right.
I just set the same tempos, and then I drag them over and do it that way. What's your primary workflow when you're using Machine and Ableton?
Like I said, it goes back to me really just focusing on audio. So I don't do any of the whole, I mean, even though I show people how to do it, I don't do the whole MIDI routing and all that type of stuff. Like, I have a template set up with Machine as a plugin, and I have like 4 to 8 audio tracks, anytime I want drums from Machine, I just record it directly to an audio, just a clip directly to an audio clip. There's no MIDI involved. You know, all of my transport is done from here. I'm not doing any patterns inside a Machine. It's basically just like it was like a hardware drum machine at that point, and that's pretty much how I use it. You know, I don't do any of the sequencing when I use them together. I mean, there's times where I still just open up Machine and do stuff standalone, but when I'm in Ableton, that's how I use it. I just record it straight to audio. If it's a kick, snare, whatever it is, percussion, chords, whatever it is that I want to record out of Machine, I just record it directly as, you know, as audio to a clip in Ableton.
So are you triggering it from Machine then?
Yeah. Yeah, I just play Machine like it was like if it wasn't even a plugin, or you know, like it was just a standalone hardware. Like if I had some type of hardware synth or drum machine and I'm playing in the Ableton, I record that as audio. I treat Machine the same exact way.
Sure, yeah. That's basically how I work with the Tempest when I'm doing it too.
Right, yeah, that's how I do it. Same thing. This is exactly how I treat Machine. So
I'd tell you another fun workflow that I like to do, and I kind of like I squirrel around. I like to do lots of different. I'd bounce from like spot in my studio to spot in my studio and just kind of play around and do different things. And one thing that I kind of remembered that I had is Mike actually made a template for Machine Studio where you can use it like a TR8.
right.
And I've been using that, and it's so much fun because I keep debating on buying the TR8. Knowing how limited it is,
Yeah, but you'll end up.
but liking it for the fact of how limited it is. Sometimes I just like that individual piece for that individual style, and
You'll
then
have it eventually.
I will. But I absolutely love the drum synths that are in Machine. Like to me they sound fantastic,
Yeah.
and like they stand up with my Tempest. They stand up with anything else. So. Then I remembered that I had that template, which I try to remind everybody, go to padbangers.com and get the template for that, because it's really, really fun if you like that step sequence style working and you can just kind of dive into it. And I've been doing that, and then I throw that stuff right into live and chop it up and do all the fun things that you can do with live because of the real-time time stretching and all that stuff. So
Yeah.
what about you, Mike? How have you been using your setup lately? Have you been using Machine at all?
I'm one of the guys that is not so happy with Machine anymore, and this is not lately. I said it before, since 2.0, I'm not too happy with Machine anymore. I love the drum synths, they're great. I like the browser, at least as long as you don't want to load your own sounds, because you still can't do that. You still can't browse your files. Of course, you could do your own drum racks, but that's too limited for me. I like to browse all my kicks, all my snares, and stuff like that, and it's still not possible. You have to use the mouse, and that's what I prefer over. That's what I prefer now with Push 2. You can browse all your files, but on the other side, you don't have favorites in the Push browser at the moment, and it's a little bit cluttered. So there's no perfect browser for me at the moment. The way I use Machine at the moment is I love the Audio Modder VST bridge. It's kind of like this dude took, I think he spent weeks converting Machine expansions into Ableton drum kits, and it feels like you load a natively drum rack for Ableton, but it loads Machine software in the background, and it does all the dirty work for you. You have your perfect MIDI settings, so you can play MIDI from Push, and you can record it like a regular MIDI clip in Ableton, and it's still triggering Machine. It has your audio routed perfectly. So that's how I use Machine Cell, but my Machine controller, it's gathering dust at the moment, to be honest. So, but I hope Native Instruments sees the chance now to catch up with Machine, and they see the competition now, and they work their butts off to bring out cool new features. So I'm not selling my Machine, because I think they will come up with some cool stuff in the future.
So we've seen MPC Touch was announced, and that is a very forward-thinking, whether you like the current MPC setup or not, it's a very forward-thinking way of design, whether you're left-handed or not, because me personally, I'm but
yeah, Yeah, the pads are backwards, but the concept is dope just because everybody has touch screen. Like your phone is touch screen, iPad is touch screen, so it makes the learning curve a lot shorter. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Somebody can pick
absolutely.
that up, even if somebody who's never touched the MPC, they can get that and be like, find a way around it. So I mean, that's definitely something I want to check out, even though I feel like it's reversed. I feel like the pads are on the wrong side, but
Yep.
I definitely want to check that out just because I like seeing innovation. I like seeing where things are going, and
And we're seeing things on that front, like they've got like a live looper in there. So these are all ideas that the community has been yelling for Machine to get for a long time too. So it's not like they don't know and aren't aware of these things. Maybe they're working on something great that we just haven't seen yet.
right,
Maybe it's just not time for them yet. So I'm still hoping. I mean, to me, it's weird because for a long time they've had Tractor Scratch Pro, which has wonderful time stretching in it. They've got
contact,
Contact, which has Time Machine Pro in it, which has wonderful time stretching in it.
batteries,
Yeah,
battery
it's not
time.
like they don't have that. They just haven't implemented it yet, you know?
Yeah.
So it leaves me like wondering, okay, well, they had to have already been trying these things, and they must not have been working to their satisfaction. I'm hoping that they just eventually I'm hoping that they're not falling into the situation where a lot of people do with albums, where you're like, it's not perfect, it's not perfect, it's not perfect, and just never release it. You know what I mean?
Right.
Yeah.
I want to see something happen. I want to see something move. That's not a we expected this. I want it to be a wow. I wasn't even expecting how cool this is. Like blow my mind. Don't get to where I want you to be. Go so far beyond where I want you to be that my mind is blown and that I'm floored. Like
Right, right.
you know what I mean?
But
Yeah,
to be honest, I think we don't have to be feared. Native Instrument won't put it out until it's perfect because
Oh
when you
yeah.
see the latest machine updates, they were not perfect too.
Well,
But
they just released an update. They just released 2.4,
yeah.
and I tell you what, it's been a long while since I've seen a update for a major platform come out with such little
yeah,
comments.
Well,
And
I mean, to be fair, they released it same week that Ableton released Push 2 and 9.5. That's just
that's
gonna get
true.
drowned
That's
out. But
true.
to speak to the 2.4, like honestly, for me, with the whole NKS format or whatever, like I wasn't excited about it for the complete controller, but I gotta say, like in machine, it's a lot more useful because it's like for me, like it's even more fun to browse the entire Arturia collection in machine than it is on Arturia's own controllers, just because of the browser in machine, like the tagging and the visual images and everything. Like it's really fast to go through. I mean, hopefully there's more people that support that format because I find it for me a lot more useful inside a machine than in the complete control. Like I'm just not a fan of the complete control browser and keyboard and the way you gotta. I'm just not a fan of. You know how I feel about that. But in machine, like the NKS stuff inside a machine is really cool. I mean, definitely I suggest people check it out. I mean, I am having some issues with my plugins. They keep resetting every time I restart machine, but whatever. But like that whole browser integration with the Arturia stuff, and there's some other stuff like Orange Tree samples and um, Heaviosity, some different people. Like it's really well done inside of the machine for me. I mean, I don't
yeah.
know about anybody
I
else, but inside a machine, I think it's pretty cool.
I agree with that, but I'd rather see like kind of universal format.
Oh yeah,
So so NKS is still Native Instruments property,
right.
and that's the reason I think not a lot of developers will jump on that train.
Yeah, and
So
that's the
I'd
thing.
rather see a universal format. I mean, what do you need? You need some tags. You need an image to be included in that file,
Right.
and just a bunch of scripts. So why don't these people just sit together and make like one universal format you can load into Ableton, you can load into Native
It
Instruments, you
is
can load
funny.
into Cubase, whatever it is.
Yeah,
I agree.
it's funny that they just did that whole stems thing, and their big push on that was that it's open source and everybody's going to adopt it because it's open source, and we don't own this. It's just we're putting it out there for everybody to use. It does make you kind of say, hey, well, wouldn't it have made sense to do the same kind of push towards everybody having their controllers work the same, and You know what I mean? Like, everybody
I
gets.
don't know how it works from a developer standpoint. Like I don't know if they have to pay to do the NKS. Like I don't know if it has to be like if it's a contact library. Does it have to be a contact player library where you actually already licensed? You bought the licenses for your contact library before you can actually use the NKS. Like I don't know how it goes. I mean, and at the end of the day, it still works like for the developer to develop in that format. You know what I'm saying? So it's like you are dependent on these developers to say, do I really want to support this other format? I'm just saying it's cool the way it's integrated, and I find using the Arturia collection, for example, much more of a fulfilling experience from Machine than from their own controllers, just because of how I can browse their plugins on there. I mean, like, but I don't know if we're gonna see like everybody adopt it just because it's another step. You know what I'm saying? It's just like the Reason stuff, like the Reason racks or whatever. It's like everybody thought you was gonna see everybody develop for it, but at the end of the day, it's like that's another platform to develop for. You know what I'm saying? Like I don't know the technical aspect behind it or the licensing or anything like that, but
Sure, but that's kind of what we're also getting at is that like in the end it would be cool if everybody sat down so that in the
right.
These things could move forward. But I think it's kind of one of those things where at this point it's like they're throwing their weight around because they have such a huge marketing budget. They're in so many studios already that they're able to do this,
Yeah.
So on a very strong arm side of things, it totally makes sense. And from a developer standpoint, as long as it doesn't take them too much effort, it makes sense too because they're gonna
somebody like Spectrasonics.
Yeah.
How many presets do they have?
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
what's the process to get them in? Like, would they even bother? Like, they have 10,000 something presets. Like, are they really gonna?
Script, but if it's a simple script for them to do it,
But if you look at the NKS stuff, like it's literally like it's different for each manufacturer, each instrument. Like, it looks like they literally had to go in and say this is what we want mapped for this plugin. You know what I'm saying? Like, if that's the case, I don't see somebody doing 10,000 presets. Like, I don't know. I don't know the technical aspect of it. I guess that's what I'm saying. Like,
I think it's basic scripting because I saw people on the Native Instruments forum already sharing their own NKS stuff they made. So
well, yeah, you can do that. I'm talking about from the
that's a whole lot different from doing 10,000.
Right. Like I can go in and make an NKS file the same way you would map your own plugins before. There's just a new format. But for their stuff to integrate in the browser and all that, like I don't know what the process is for that. Like, do you have to do that for each and every preset? You know what I'm saying? Like,
I think so. I don't think there's like an import function for your previous because you have to standardize these before.
You don't see the back end though. We don't see the back end where it's perfectly possible that they could have a script that prioritizes all like oscillator sections are on this bank and that kind of thing. Like there could be ways of streamlining it that I would hope that they're smart enough to implement that. That would.
I mean, I would like to see it because then you compare that to something like the Akai where But see, Akai themselves are going in and mapping all these plugins. Like they literally have a team of people mapping plugins. Like they support a lot more stuff right now, but it's like they're doing that themselves. Like, and so it's like the developers don't have to worry about it. You know what I'm saying? Whereas with the Native Instrument stuff, it's like, okay, the developers have to choose if they want their stuff in this format on this platform. I was still surprised that Arturia did it just because they have their own controllers, but
yeah, it was an interesting choice. It was interesting.
I mean, it makes sense. It makes sense. So it's like, okay, they are a software company. Yeah, like they are a software company, and like I said, the experience with the Arturia collection is much better browsing it in the NKS format for me than it is on their own controllers.
Yeah, I mean, I have the Arturia Keylab 49 Black that I'm using here, and I don't always use the Analog Lab stuff.
Right.
A lot of the times, I'm using this to trigger my hardware sense and that sort of thing. I like the feel of the knobs and faders on this. Like, I like the layout of it overall.
Yeah.
And I'm not super keen on the layout of the complete control. And to be honest with you, I'm not super keen on the layout of the Akai either. I like the faders and stuff on here.
Right.
So it's interesting to me to see them, doing the NKS format and people hopping on board. It'll be really interesting to see if, because there's a lot of like behind the scenes things of like certain companies want to work with, other companies, certain companies don't. So it'll be interesting to see if certain, major guys stay away.
Right.
And who comes on board right away. So like how fast will we see Diva, in NKS format, how fast will we see Omnisphere? How fast will we see
exactly
all these different plugins of that sort? Is Serum going to be on there? Like, who knows?
Right. That's what I'm saying. Like, it has to be the developer has to choose to do that, and that's the thing. It's like if you're making, unless they make it super easy, it's still extra work for the developer. Like you guys have made products. You know what I'm saying? So it's like if you made something, somebody's like, oh, here's another format that you can develop for. It's like, okay, do I really want to redo everything I just did just to do, what I'm saying, just to make it in this format? Like, that's kind of the conflict that you're going to have with these larger companies, especially like you said, like a Spectrasonics or a Yuhi or the Serum, Synthmaster, people like this who have a lot of presets. Like, if it's not fairly automated, that's a lot of work.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? Like, I think Mike should come up with a universal, format for all this stuff, and then we can just be like the technical guys that make sure it works, and then I think we should just all just do that.
Are you talking about Romans?
Yeah, no, Mike. Right?
Oh, this Mike.
I mean, he's a program. He can program and he can script and do stuff.
No. I'm not. I'm a graphics designer. I'm not a programmer. That's the problem I have.
You can figure it out.
I can make it look pretty.
Yeah, well, see, now all we need is a programmer, man, and we can come up with a universal. Because I'm telling you, like, that's the thing, like the Kai stuff, like, since the developers don't have to worry about it, it's like there's more stuff in there. Like, they have all the Yuhi stuff in there, Spectrasonics, Trillion, all that stuff is in there, and it's no work for the developer. Like, they didn't have to do anything. And it's like that's the thing. It's like I guess I want to see the back end. I want to see the back end of the NKS stuff. I want to see, what it looks like from a developer standpoint. Like, what do they have to do to get their stuff into that? You know what I'm saying? Like, because I would like to see more stuff in there. I mean, because I still, when you talk about the graphic layout and everything of Machine's browser, I still think it's dope. So, I like seeing, like I don't even use Spark. I don't even use Spark, but I pulled it up just because it's in Machine. Like, you can browse through all the kits and pull it up really quick. So, I mean, I would definitely like to see stuff like some of my favorites, like Spectrasonics or Yuhi or something like that. But I mean, if it's too work intensive, I just don't see it happening.
Yeah, I totally agree.
Sucks. It's like, I guess I'm gonna have to talk to some developers, man, and kind of see what it involves. Like, I know some of the people that are doing stuff in that format. I'm gonna have to see what it involves and how much work it actually is.
Yeah. I mean, that's something that it is kind of missing from the software world, because it wasn't such a huge issue before, but now it's like there's so much out there. It's like we need that event that was like MIDI for hardware.
Exactly.
We need that event that ties everything together, and all it's going to take is a few major companies coming together and making it happen and making it open source, like MIDI was, so that everybody can kind of get this going. But if major companies are coming out there making these individual formats and making them specific to their product, and licensing it or whatever, like, let's say, for instance, if they eventually were to take NKS and then license it to other people, that would be kind of like, oh man, then you just get into this murky area of like everything getting, this competition of everybody's trying to get a little bit of money from something,
Yeah. Well, and it's kind of like the whole VST format. There's a menu system in VST format.
Yeah.
But rarely do you find plugins that actually use it. It's like even so you'll find like DAWs, like sometimes you'll see a plugin and it'll show all the presets for the plugin. But that's because it's using the VST formatted, menu system. But you rarely get that anymore. You know what I'm saying? Like, rarely get people to actually use that. And so otherwise you would have a lot more integration with pretty much everything.
I've seen software where they've had like batch integration, and then you pull it up and like it works great for some, and then others there's nothing there, and you're like,
that's because the people aren't using the standard. So it's like everybody still ends up doing their own thing. You know,
Yep.
like.
all right. Well, listen. Let's on that note, we'll say everybody get your act together. That's going to be the theme of the show, is telling all the developers, get your act together, make it right, so that we're all happy. We'll end on a positive note. I'm going to say pushtutorials.com is up now, running. Machinetutorials.com has been up and running for quite a long time. And soundsandgear.com is up and running. I like the fact that you're wearing a B-Boy Tech Report short.
Yeah, shout out to my boy Corey, man. That's my dude. BBoyTechReport.com. Yeah.
We will all be hanging out at NAMM, and
oh yeah.
I'm looking forward to getting some Roscoe's.
Yes, man. Finally get to take you there.
Yeah, that's gonna be good times. So Mike won't be at NAMM because he's on the wrong side of the ocean.
Mike might be at NAMM.
Mike, why don't you get to NAMM? I can't pay the flight. So maybe next year or in the near future. But you guys should come over to Music Messe.
That's exactly what I was just about to say. Mike can tease us about not being at Music Messe.
Right.
So.
Right. When is that? Like a month later?
Yep. About a month and a half.
It's in April.
Oh, okay.
Is it really?
Yeah.
I didn't think it was that far away. I thought it was like a month and a half. Okay.
I have to look into that, man.
Yeah, man. Come over.
I don't know. So anyway, just I want to thank everybody for watching. I know it's been a while since we had a show. We're going to try and get back onto a regular schedule. We've had a lot going on, and I know that Joe's got more projects going on in the future as well. I've got some video courses coming up as well, and more products coming from the machinewarehouse.com. So head over to the Facebook group, the Producers Hangout, and say what's up to us. So,
yes, indeed.
All right, peace.
Peace.
Peace out.